Welcome to UVTV, motherfucker. I'm here to kick spiritual ass and do this shit for my people. On God. Neon nigga for Featherman, yeah. And today, I'm going to be talking about how the state of being, I'm going to be talking about the state of being of creating a character and being a celebrity. So me just talking about the state of being a celebrity and stuff like that. Like in actuality, in totality, that accumulated and you creating that character for yourself and cultivating it for yourself, and you turning that into a mind state, and then you actually turning that into something that's materialized into the flesh, into the physical, and the external tools and technology, and things you can utilize based upon what you made from the flesh and the body and stuff like that, because we are these things and we have to put ourselves in this type of space, so create and produce these things ourselves, and then we can have that inspiration. So it's go, you know what I'm saying, it's going to go based upon a spirit mind body concept, a birth life death concept, how I like to call it, a spiral, an internal spiral, and then it turned into a solid and stuff like that. So it's going to expand, and from that expansion it's going to contract and condense into a mind, and then it condenses into another mind. Not condense into another mind. It condenses into a mind and turns into your light body, which is your mentality and your mind of how you look at it, a psyche, and then it's going to condense into another body, shape and form and stuff like that, into the physical fleshly fluids like the organs and the pus and the veins, and you know what I'm saying? Like the fleshy fluids and stuff like that, like the lungs and the heart and the organs, all that type shit, in the brain and things of that nature. And then the tools and technology and the external references you can utilize that's get made from the flesh. So look at that as like technology and stuff like that. So we can adapt that creative ability and skill and talent to make that thing be active, so we can find another way to make that thing keep on going on and stuff like that. The same way how agriculture and culture get cultivated and stuff like that, and then everyone got their own customs, everyone got their own belief system, and then you can make a religion out of it. Not these things already being religious, no, it's just someone pointing what people are worshiping and stuff like that, and they look at that thing like it's adultery or idol worship, but it just got created to what, but like, you know what I'm saying, based upon their faith and belief of how they look at all possibilities, aka what y'all would call God and stuff like that. So we're gonna get deep into it, of how the state of being a celebrity in general, right? And people should not be getting lost into. I'm gonna put these down for a second. We're not gonna get lost into the idea of how to look at celebrities in general and stuff like that, because people be looking at celebrities and stuff like that, and they'll get lost into the idol worship and the adultery of what they represent based upon their fame and their notoriety, and them being a big name and stuff like that, and them being inside these different energies and stuff like that. But people not understanding, based upon them making $1 million, they had to feel that way inside and be rich in spirit for the most part. And then these industries and corporations and enterprises and these brands had to get created at some point, and they had to become celebrities, aka they had to get well known into their field, aka they had to get well known into their business practices and stuff like that. They had to make that business. And before there was an industry of what we know today and things being industrialized for a piece of work and stuff like that, it had to be created in the first place based upon someone's culture of them getting that monetary game, and them building relationships, and them passing that down over different generations and stuff like that. That's why a lot of different things similar to life and stuff like that is gonna come and go based upon different seasonal transitions and stuff like that. It's just about how you doing it, not what you doing. So the thing that you doing is, we trying to make a business, and we trying to make a lot of money, and we trying to get a lot of fame and notoriety and money and material things, and get all this luxury and leisure based upon what we created, and we trying to make some type of culture. So it's automatically gonna put you in a state of being, of being creative, being productive. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get your 1-2 together and stuff like that. Oh, I'm trying to build something, and then have that type of reputation and image to make it look like a inspiration or an example, being a walking example of what that looked like, aka it being a walking star representation of how to create something to make it bigger than what it was when I first started and stuff like that, and it can get to the biggest accumulation, so we can create more for it and stuff like that. It's just based upon the new world and the westernized way of things and stuff like that when it comes to capitalism and colonization, because capitalism is just a offspring of colonization and stuff like that, and motherfuckers just like to be into aristocrats, say elite type of way of thinking and stuff like that, even though this video is not really about that. I'm not gonna get into that because this video is not really about that. And then on top of that, I'm gonna start calling that shit westernized now, instead of bringing up colonization and capitalism all the time and stuff like that, because y'all know what the fuck I be talking about when I be saying that shit, because it's very much common sense why people are in that position in the first place and stuff like that. But from an overall perspective, right, we understand that for them to be in that type of position, it had to get created in the first place before it got set up to where, oh, that's just the societal norm. So before that societal norm, a society had to get created in the first place and stuff like that. And from that society being created, it had to be some type of culture. It had to be some type of business venture. It had to be some type of entertainment. It had to be some type of education factor, or it had to be some type of scholarship. It had to be some type of universities, some curriculum to make it so. You know what I'm saying? Like, it had to be some type of artist development. It had to be some type of creative development or culture development in general to make that what it is in the first place and stuff like that, right? So it's the same thing when it comes to celebrities, and I'm gonna get down into the nitty gritty of the state of being that a celebrity would have to be in to even get into that position. And I just want to take y'all away from that bias. I want to take y'all away from that bias of not getting lost into the adultery of what it looked like to be a celebrity and being on the big screen, being on TV, and be like Michael Jackson and stuff like that, because that's his own thing. That's only in their industry and their culture and stuff like that. If you want to be an actual star player, five-pointed being, and you know what I'm saying, you want to, because an actual star, just in general, right, to simplify it, it's uh, a celestial body at a luminous point and stuff like that, right? And based upon it being a celestial body, it's a heavenly body and stuff like that. So look at that as what's the thing that makes you feel good and makes you feel like you in an internal heaven, not a hell. A hell would be something where you're not going, you're not doing that. So look at that as a motherfucker who's not actually accomplishing their dreams, a person who's not actually going after their passions and motivations and shit like that, a person who's not trying to accomplish the things that come in their mind, their imagination. They have no creativity and productivity and stuff like that. They have no reason to get up in the morning. They have no life. They ain't trying to create something for themselves and stuff like that. They have no individuality. They have no personality and stuff like that. They're not trying to go and do things on their own volition and put themselves first. They always trying to put other people in their relationships and what's relative to their surrounding situation, and then they're doing the same things in the same location and still in the same mind state of what they was when they was in high school and shit like that. So that's where that mentality be coming from like motherfuckers who peak in high school. So you get lost into a pocket of time in a memory instead of making new moments and new experiences and new memories and new thoughts and new feelings and new passions and new motivations and new intentions and stuff like that. The only thing that you intended on your mind is trying to make yourself a spiritual bum and stuff like that, a creative bum. It don't mean they ain't being creative. They're still creating things for themselves and stuff like that. You just creative at being a bum ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? You just creative at being a spiritual crackhead. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing the same shit. You know what I'm saying? You just out of your mind instead of having your mind right and together and in sync, and you actually going for those things, and you ain't getting lost into a pocket of time or a memory or things of the body or things of the flesh, or getting lost into sin. So getting lost into one type of desire or one type of spectrum or one type of light of how to look at it and stuff like that, and you getting blinded by the light, and you just make an internal darkness and stuff like that, and you never lighten your load in no way, shape, or form, right? So from you not lightening your load, you making it heavy, you making it like a burden, you making it like you making yourself feel guilty, you making it harsh, you making it, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like you're putting yourself and agreeing to being frustrated. You're agreeing to put yourself in a boundary, restriction, and limit. You putting yourself in a box. You putting yourself in like a limitation, and you can't see yourself outside that box, outside that limitation and shit like that, right? So I'm saying all this to say I'm building yourself up to help you not be in that mind state, and then you understand what these things are in totality and actuality for the most part when it comes to creating and cultivating your character and shit like that, right? And once you put yourself in a space to where you can play out that in actuality, and you can be in your leadership and form, your leadership and form will kind of be like your mentality of how you look at it. It's not what you're doing, it's how you do it. So when you take these things more lightly and be wise as a serpent, but what's that shit called? As wise as a serpent and light as a dove or some shit like that. Like whatever they said when it comes to like that allegory and stuff like that. So for the most part, you're not taking those things heavy, and you ain't trying to carry the weight of the world on your shoulder and shit like that. You're trying to make your own realm of reality, your own sphere, your own orb, your own space, your own world and atmosphere of how you look at it, and how that shit gonna get condensed when it comes to the clouds until it rains down to existence, aka it being accumulated into the flesh, into the material. So that's literally manifesting and materializing, simplified for the most part. So for the most part, success is just the result of something being more broad, and stuff like that. It can accumulate into money. It can accumulate into a monetary gain and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's just something that gets materialized, not based upon the monetary gain, the money, or you basically getting more accumulation when it comes to your wealth and stuff like that, right? It's just you have a better result based upon it being shown by the physical examples that you can see. And that's the true success and stuff like that. Now, the actual success can turn into a monetary gain. It can turn into money. It can turn into materialistic things and worldly things and stuff like that. But it's, and like in actuality, it's just the result being better than what you did last time and stuff like that, based upon what you put your time into and what you're paying attention to, and you trying to attract yourself into a better circumstance to where you can look at and be deemed as center stage and be more attractive. And the only reason motherfuckers are attracted to your talent or your gift or your talent, gift, or your passion, or what you're inspired by, or your way when it comes to your imagination, and you was able to emanate that mentality into a character, and people are inspired by that character because they look at that thing as virtuous, or they look at that thing as holy, or they look at that thing as, oh, that's a good example of how to do that thing in the right way and stuff like that. This motherfucker know how to lead. This motherfucker knows how to innovate. This motherfucker is like a trailblazer for this thing before it became cool and stuff like that. So he make the new trend instead of being a part of a consciousness wave, or being a part of this wave based upon a societal norm and stuff like that. He make the new societal norm, but before it was what's that word? Before it was a normalcy, it was looked at as unknown or obscure, or it was only like a niche, what they call that shit? Like a not a monoculture, but like a niche microculture. Yeah, a microculture. You know what I'm saying? So that microculture just happened to turn into a monoculture and become monolithic, just based upon the fact of how big it got after the fact. But it had to be created, and it was niche, and it was just a certain group of people based upon what they created. And then it kept on going through that natural process of expand, contract, expand, contract, expand, contract, to where it got so big to where it just appears like a monolith, or it appears like a Monopoly game or some shit like that. So it just got capitalized on. But at the end of the day, that starter point got created by somebody based upon what the, you know what I'm saying, based upon like the creativity and the space that was in, and the spirit and the space that they was in, before it became that big name thing, before it became that super successful business enterprise in the first place, right? Until it basically accumulated to a point to where that shit gets celebrated and stuff like that, right? So we're gonna get into it when it comes to the state of being of creating a character and being a celebrity and stuff like that, right? So being a celebrity is, you know what I'm saying? A celebrity is just a quality of being celebrated in some way, shape, or form. It's just they are the physical walking emanation representation of what that looked like. And that's something that had to be created based upon their internal nature, because we already are these things, to where you had to put yourself in a productivity creation space to proclaim, perform, and praise yourself, to where you accumulate that energy into publicity based upon some type of rite of passage in some way, shape, and form, right? So for motherfuckers not to get spooked out by the word ritual and stuff like that, right? Just look at ritual as a schedule, routine, and pattern. A thing you're doing in moderation, a thing that you're doing on a day-to-day basis that you're constantly working on and stuff like that, right? So based upon from you constantly putting your time into that thing, it obviously matters to you, and you're paying attention to it. And from you paying attention to it, you're gonna attract different spirits, different sentient beings, different things in existence to turn that thing into a deity and stuff like that, right? And to make that in a real simplified way, you're gonna attract certain deities, right? Because deities is just the offsprings of entities. Entities are just things in existence. A deity is someone turning that into like some type of idol worship based upon the character that got created or the mentality that got created from that state of being or that existence and stuff like that, right? So from it turning into a deity, it's gonna get condensed into the physical, right? And it's gonna be a physical representation. Now, people can't idol worship based upon what you paying attention on, what you do on a day-to-day schedule, pattern, routine, and stuff like that. Can look at that thing as a thing to follow based upon idol worship and shit like that. But that comes after the fact. Motherfuckers can make a religion or make a cult or make a cult following or a core fan base out of what you're doing, but that comes after the fact. If you go into it with that type of mentality and stuff like that, you only gonna make some type of hellistic mindset for yourself, because you shouldn't be taking responsibility for some shit that motherfuckers are self-projecting onto you. And then if you want to be in that type of state of being to where you want to rule over others and stuff like that, you only think like the government. The government would just be in the governing mentality in itself. So you just like to rule over other people, and you just like to be the walking adultery, walking idol worship, walking deity, to where people can go to you for that thing, but you don't want nobody else to look at something outside of just you doing that shit. So look at that as like a super egotistical motherfucker or something like that, or like a narcissist, to where they're doing something that's self-serving, aka, oh, you're giving me all this praise and I'm doing this for a whole bunch of self-serving things, and you should be grateful that I gave you that knowledge, and you should be grateful that I gave you this, that, and the third, I give you that game and stuff like that, instead of being of service and being genuine, being authentic, and you doing it from the kindness of your heart, to where, oh, okay, this shit can help people, instead of thinking, oh, I'm the greatest god of or the greatest being on earth and shit like that, and you can only get that sauce from me because I'm the king and I'm this and I'm that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So from that state of being, that state of that condition, right, of being a celebrity, right, is somebody who's being celebrated based upon how they perform and what they proclaim themselves as, based upon what they're active in, based upon their schedule, pattern, routine of what they're paying attention to, and they're able to attract other individuals to pay attention to what they're paying attention to based upon how they're doing it, not what they're doing. And from you putting yourself in that state of being, you have to celebrate your accomplishments or your achievements, or you going for your striving for your goals and your passions to actually accomplish those things, right? So you have to celebrate even the small wins and stuff like that, because it's not about winning and it's not about losing and stuff like that. Overall, motherfuckers still want to succeed. Motherfuckers still want to cultivate something for themselves. Motherfuckers still want to feel accomplished in some way, shape, or form and stuff like that. But to even get to that state of being, you have to lose something. So that could turn into, you have to lose the way how you used to look at shit. You have to lose certain attachments that you had and stuff like that. It don't mean turn into like a fuck nigga and then you make $1 million and then you don't give a fuck about your people and your family and stuff like that. No. The same way how you used to create and what you're used to doing, you can still stay in that space, but you have to do it from a natural, organic type of way and stuff like that. And the more and more you get lost into someone else's creation, so look at that as you getting lost into someone else's narrative or someone else's program or someone else's industry, or you get lost into a shape and form of how you supposed to do it. So you think, oh, I need to be around these groups of people and stuff like that, or I need this amount of money in order to accomplish my dreams and stuff like that, because I need the certain lookership and I need the certain appearance of how I look like and stuff like that. I ain't trying to look like I'm broke. I'm already trying to look like I'm successful in the physical, in the flesh, but I'm still in the hood and shit like that. No, you have to come as you is and stuff like that. So if you cosplaying that, especially nowadays, that's not gonna work. Nigga can sniff that shit away. It's like cat rapping and shit like that. Now, if you coming in like a little Tekka type of energy, right? If you just come as you is and you just be like, oh yeah, I'm not really like that. I'm just cat rapping. I'm just saying they are my lyrics, but I'm not really doing that. Okay then, like you come in genuine and stuff like that. But if you trying to be someone who you not, and you swear on everything on your life that you gonna up that pole, you gonna up that fire, you got shooters, but your ass grew up in a suburban area and shit like that, and you went to college and you you know what I'm saying, you went to college, you went to Harvard, nigga, and then you talking like you Lil Mama or some shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? You talking like you talking like you King Von and shit like that, like you was not growing up like that. You was not around niggas like that. You probably knew niggas and stuff like that who was like that, but you wasn't doing that. And then everyone who's around you who grew up with you know you was not doing that shit. So it's like that. Like, you have to come genuine and stuff like that. You have to come authentic. You have to come as an actual individual. You can't be cosplaying. And the only thing you're gonna be self-projecting, because everything is a self-projecting. It's a self-projection. And everything you self-project about is what you self-reflecting. So based upon what you self-projecting about, okay, behind closed doors when you be introspecting and doing that internal mirror and you self-reflect about that shit and stuff like that, you just showing that behind closed doors you be self-reflecting about how much you not like that. So you self-projecting, oh, I gotta play this character or this role of what I'm not. So it turns into, oh yeah, I gotta buy, you know what I'm saying? I gotta buy the car, I gotta buy the chains, I gotta buy the clothes, I gotta get the sponsors, I gotta have the money phone and shit like that. I have to have a certain amount of lookership to look the part so I can actually be that thing instead of just being yourself. For the most part, it just get lost into validation issues and shit like that. And the only way you feel like you're gonna get some type of praise or validity and stuff like that, you gotta have the street cred or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just using terminologies to make that shit make more sense. Even though I know I'm making sense. Like everyone can see that shit like day to day. Like you grow up with a nigga that was not into those type of things. They really like on some geek nerd shit, but they don't want to come as a geek nerd because they ain't trying to be, you know what I'm saying? They trying to get a certain amount of money and fame and notoriety and stuff like that. And then cool, get your money, but at least be yourself though on your path of doing that. The minute you start getting lost into synthetic shit, you just gonna show, oh, okay, you just trying to be everything that you not. And then you're gonna put yourself in a certain position to where, let's say you actually accumulate, you get to that position and you get to that certain amount of success and stuff like that. You ain't gonna feel satisfied though. You ain't gonna be fulfilled. Cause I don't give a fuck if you made, man. I don't give a fuck, man. I don't give a fuck if you a billionaire, right? None of that shit can go with you after you dead. So that already tell you right there what's actually important and stuff like that. And your body is dying to tyranny every single day. We only here for a certain point of time because we in the physical realm, we in the death realm. You know what I'm saying? We know we gonna die one day, but we trying to do what we can to have some legacy legs to stand on for what we did when it comes to our life, because we're creating life, we're creating sentience, and we're making it what it is based upon what we paying attention to. And then people get attracted to what we paying attention to based upon our subjective point of view of how we look at that thing. So it's about how we doing it now, what we doing, and it's about to make the dream work of the overall objective of how we're going to get there from being one of a kind and stuff like that. And that's what mankind existence in general of what the fuck we should be doing. But that's really a different video. But like, y'all get what the fuck I'm saying, bro. So it's like, yeah, it's like you can't get lost into the lookership on your pathway and your journey when it comes to getting that fame and notoriety and stuff like that. Because fame in general is just what you publicly known for. It don't have to have a lookership of you making $1 million and stuff like that. Some motherfuckers got famous for fighting a whole bunch of different motherfuckers in their local city or some shit like that, or their local town and shit like that. Like fighting a whole bunch of motherfuckers at their school and they got a reputation. They got some type of fame off of that shit. You know what I'm saying? It's just what you publicly known for and stuff like that. So it don't necessarily mean you got fucking 100K followers and shit like that from being like an IG model or being an influencer or a social media personality or some shit like that, or like some type of content creator and things of that nature, right? You just known for that thing. So that's your level of fame. It's just your level of fame could just be on a low scale. Okay, you're not mainstream, even though y'all shouldn't be looking at like a high and low type thing. Oh, if you mainstream is at a high level, and then if you just doing it in your city is at a low level. No. Are you high when it comes to, you know what I'm saying? Are you able to be in a high position? Are you able to have a lot of high spirited and passion or motivation for that thing? Are you able to stay in that creative, productible type of creative, productible space in some shape or form, right? So look at that as like high and low vibrations and stuff like that. But everyone go through highs and lows and stuff like that. The same way when people be saying, oh, this is high vibrational, this is low vibrational. Yeah, but that's a part of the journey though. You're gonna go through ups and downs. You're gonna go through highs and lows and shit like that. But that's part of your spirit in the space that you in and stuff like that. And you moving through those different emotions and motivations and intentions and passions and stuff like that. And if you on a high vibration, you're gonna be excited to find some new shit to do today and stuff like that. Excited to experience life. Excited to emanate a new vision. Excited to emanate a new type of thought or a new type of frame of thinking and stuff like that. A new type of way of looking at it. Some new type of productivity, production. A new type of creativity and stuff like that. Some new type of high hanging fruit, not no low hanging fruit and stuff like that. Because that will be low vibrational in a sense, right? If you want to use those types of allegories or like terminology and stuff like that. So the low vibrational shit will be like the the pressurized type of thoughts, the depression type of thoughts, so the deeply compressed and stuff like that, so the down type of thoughts and stuff like that, the things that make you feel like, oh, I don't want to be here, I want to kill myself type of thoughts and stuff like that, the uninspired type of thoughts, the writer's block type of thoughts and stuff like that. You feel like you going through some type of limitation and you can't get out that box, you can't get out that space, you can't have some type of expansive new way to look at it and stuff like that. You still being contained and condensed into one shape and form how to look at it. So in a sense, you're lost into that one shape and form. But as spirits, we're no shape and form. So from us being no shape and form, right, we like to emanate these things. We like to go into a shape and form and be fulfilled in so in shape and form. Because based upon the space that we in, the space is just that arena, that parameter and stuff like that. And there's nothing in it. It's clairvoyant. And then based upon it being transparent, clairvoyant, and it's empty, we're going to fulfill that thing. We're going to, you know what I'm saying, make sure that cup is fulfilled and stuff like that. Now, if your cup being fulfilled with a whole bunch of different bullshit, you're going to be feeling like, oh, I'm fulfilling myself in something that's void. It's something that don't really matter like that. You know what I'm saying? My spirit ain't being fulfilled. I'm just getting lost into the flesh. I'm just getting lost into a monetary gain. I'm just getting lost into the money. I'm just getting lost into the success, the material success. I'm just getting lost into the fame, the material fame. I'm getting lost into being a celebrity, getting lost into an industry and stuff like that, that I didn't create for myself. And it's not my people, it's not my culture. I'm just appealing to strangers and shit like that. So when you do it more from that perspective, this is that real state of being that I'm talking about, of creating an actual character that you made and not you just cosplaying, and the state of being a celebrity for real and stuff like that, because you're celebrating what you did, not celebrating and trying to run along the coattails of something that you didn't make or you didn't create, and it's not your culture, it's not your people. So it's only going to turn into you're trying to cosplay to be a part of those people, and look at that as like, I guess, like cooning or some shit like that. Or you have a genuine interest into it and you want to add on to that culture, but have your own subjective point of view of how you look at that thing and stuff like that. So yeah, like it's really just that. So you could take that and you can look at it like a celebrity will be able to take that low hanging fruit, that thing that's looked at as low class or low vibrational or poor in quality, or isn't high class or isn't high level, isn't creative, or a thing that looked like some dirt and stuff like that. You're able to take the, you know what I'm saying, you're able to pressurize it into a diamond. You know what I'm saying? You're able to find a gem. You're able to look, you're able to cultivate and take something that look like it isn't gold, it isn't enjoyable, and you're able to make gold out of it. You're able to make minerals out of it. You're able to make essence out of it. You're able to make substance out of it. You're able to make content out of it. You know what I'm saying? You can make that shit look like gold. You can make it look creative. You can make it look like it matters. So look at that as like a look at that like the same way how y'all be looking at street rappers and stuff like that, right? So you would think, oh, because they're around that surrounding an environment and they from the streets and they're hoodlums and stuff like that, right? Based upon how those motherfuckers live, because they're so poor when it comes to material and money and stuff like that, that they wouldn't have some type of high class or high quality way of how to go about it, because they ain't talking like rich motherfuckers, or they ain't talking like frat bros, or they ain't talking like suburban motherfuckers or something like that. But you can see that when it comes to that, based upon street rappers and their subject matter and their content and their way they're talking about it and their storytelling and stuff like that. Their storytelling when it comes to their lyrics and the meaning and reasonings and the experience they actually lived through, based upon them being from the hood and stuff like that. They was able to take gold out of that, quality out of that, talent out of that, some type of charismatic gift out of that, and create something for themselves to where y'all can look at it at a better way. And then hip hop got birth out of that. You know what I'm saying? Because even though I already know hip hop started off on some like party music type of shit, but it eventually cultivated into a whole bunch of different street rappers and stuff like that telling their story. Even though back then y'all didn't look at it as street, y'all just looked at it as like, oh, motherfuckers are just from the hood, but they're really good with their content and their lyrics based upon how they talking and stuff like that, based upon the circumstances in situation. But that's what it made that what it is. And stuff like that. Because then, see, motherfuckers be forgetting that shit started off as like alternative culture and stuff like that, and what the people was doing, and then it cultivated into this big thing to where it's the top chart topping industry, and we got Kendrick, Drake, and J. Cole and all that type stuff. But for the most part, right, it's the same thing. It's you taking that diamond out the rough and you making gold out of your circumstance just in general and stuff like that, and you look at that thing based upon what you're paying attention to, and you make it look attractive to make people look at you like the center star, the center stage, or the walking example, or some type of inspiration of like, oh, this motherfucker took something that looked like it wasn't that useful and he made a use out of it. He made it look like something you can do. The person made it look like a creative attribute. They made it look like a talent. They make it look like a gift. They make it look like something of importance when it wasn't looked at as that at first. So you can take that, right? And I'm gonna use I'm gonna use Abrahamic terms, right? Because with Abraham, when it comes to Christianity and that religion, right, they look at Abraham as the ultimate patriarch and stuff like that, and the first person to start that line of reasoning when it comes to not Christianity, the big three, when it comes to the different Abrahamic religions and stuff like that, like Christianity and Islamic and Islam. I mean slash Islam and Judaism and stuff like that, right? So the same way how y'all look at Abraham as a father of a multitude and stuff like that, right? From him being a father of a multitude, y'all look at him as like the father or the patriarch or the ultimate example of this creative motherfucker who made all these different religions of what this is and stuff like that. And y'all look at him as like a saint and a holy man and stuff like that, right? When you take this energy when it comes to that, instead of being a celebrity, and you look at these things as you being these things, from you taking that father thought, father sky atmosphere, that thought and idea, and turning it into an emotion and feeling, aka it's a process, right? And you turn that into a spiritual sense, you was able to take the farthest light and go the distance with that vision, that dream and imagination, that thought, right? And from you going the distance with that, you're able to expand it super big and make it far out. Look at that as intellectual property, right? And you're able to do that in multiple different spaces based upon your individual space, right? So your individual spiral, your individual spirit, look at that as your soul. And then you being around different spaces, different arenas, different entities, different existences, different experiences, different humans and stuff like that. Look at that as you putting yourself in different communities, in different cultures, in different spaces, right? So when it comes to celebrities, it's the same thing, right? Y'all celebrating their ability to do that on a high level. So they could be around a million motherfuckers, but they still know how to be center stage. They still know how to be a star player. They still know how to be their individual self. They still know how to be authentic. They still know how to be genuine and stuff like that. They still know how to rock out a show and stuff like that. They still know how to proclaim who they say they is. They still know how to perform, and y'all give them praise for that. But they had to do that with themselves first. So from them being able to maintain that individual space, their subjective point of view, right, of their soul, of what they resonate with naturally, they was able to organically produce something based upon creativity and productivity and make high-hanging fruit and be fruitful and be a father of a multitude. They was able to go the distance of multiplying that. So they able to put themselves in different spaces, but still be able to put themselves into their own individualistic space instead of being overwhelmed by being around those different deities, by being around those different entities, by being around those different spaces, those different sentient beings, those different animals, those different humans and stuff like that, those different communities, those different cultures. They're able to extract their own genuine way of how they look at those things and their subjective point of view, and they're able to add their own creative, individualistic spin on it. So from them doing it at a high level, right, that means you could be around a million different motherfuckers, but you still know how to be yourself. So you know how to be this walking star representation, and you wasn't taking the thing heavy. You didn't let all those expectations bog you down. You didn't let that stop you from being creative. You didn't let that stop you from being productive. You didn't stop that from playing out your vision from what came through your imagination and you going for that dream and you trying to accomplish that dream. You trying to accomplish that creativity that you want to emit and you want to get done and accomplish that shit and get on to the next one. And you want to keep on expanding and widening the spectrum instead of getting lost into a memory or a pocket of time of how that looked like. You able to have different creative processes and put yourself in different circumstances to where you're able to keep doing that same train of line of reason and stuff like that. So look at that as like a really imaginative artist, a really creative ass artist and stuff like that. These motherfuckers able to make multiple classics and shit like that. They don't let this shit get gentrified. They don't let this shit get watered down. They ain't gonna get too lost into the fame and the notoriety. They ain't gonna let $1 million change them and stuff like that. They wasn't, you know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna let them get bribed and stuff like that, or they're not gonna get lost and get industrialized into their system too much to stir them off their path, and they think, oh, I gotta be the biggest artist of all time, globally, universal, nationally, and shit like that, and I gotta travel to all these different spaces and stuff like that, and get further and further away from people who knew me in my personal life, further and further away from my people and stuff like that, further and further away from what cultivated me in the first place, further and further away of what people like me in the first place and stuff like that. And that would be happening to a lot of artists the minute they go mainstream. That's why that terminology selling out be coming from, because it's like, it is like selling your soul. And then I'm gonna simplify that shit because I know motherfuckers get spooked out the minute they hear, what you mean selling your soul? Okay, like I was saying earlier, your soul is your individual space, your individual spiral, right? So from that being your spiral, that's you expanding and stuff like that. And it's like a parameter, it's like a room, and you know what you want in and out your room and in and out your space. And it's based upon what you creating for yourself and cultivating for yourself, and that basically turns into the offspring of what we call agriculture and culture and stuff like that, right? And then it's you bringing that thing to life and you letting that thing bloom and grow, and it's gonna deteriorate and die one day. So from it deteriorating and dying, so look at that as you made one song and it was hot that one year. Okay, what is you gonna do next year to make another hit? You can't get too lost into that one moment because you already done soaked up all the life for that moment and stuff like that. Niggas gonna keep transitioning and moving along because the same thing that happened in life and stuff like that, life is always gonna be changing and transitioning. Okay, you gotta change your creative process and what you making and stuff like that to keep niggas active, to keep motherfuckers paying attention to you, to keep motherfuckers interested. So what's your hit next year, nigga? You already made a hit last year. Okay, what's your next thing? The more and more you get lost into a pocket of time, or you ain't being as creative, as productive when you first came out, could you get lost into an expectation of what you expect motherfuckers for you to create, and just in general and stuff like that. That's how you say stuck, and you was only hot that one year, and you was a one hit wonder type shit. If I want to use a musical analogy, type shit. So it's like, yeah, are you able to be a father of a multitude? Are you able to multiply that? Are you able to accumulate that on a on a mass scale? So like you able to break the scale of how much you able to do that thing. You still have that natural ability to keep doing that instead of getting lost into, oh, I have to do it like this way again. I have to do it exactly like this. Oh, I have to relive my past 5 years ago of when I made that creative process and that hit and stuff like that. I have to do that again. It's like you can't do it the exact same way. It's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. Yeah, you're gonna get yourself into that space of making another hit, but it's about how you doing it. You ain't gonna be able to do it the last time you did it because you already did it in that way already. You know what I'm saying? So you have to do it in another way, just adjacent to the way how you originally did it. But it's like it has to be organic though. You ain't ever gonna be able to recreate that exact experience again. You just have to put yourself in a better circumstance to where it can make you be more productive and creative, so you don't go through that writer's block, like I was saying earlier. To make that analogy make sense. So it's you building on a quality, is you building on a talent, is you building on your skill set and stuff like that. So you can so the thing that you're doing is building on that creative skill and talent, right? But you're trying to cultivate it to where you're trying to evolve it, not um what's the terminology they call for that? Not de-evolve it. I'm pretty sure that's not a word, but like y'all get what I'm trying to say. You ain't going backwards. You ain't getting lost into a pocket of time and stuff like that. You're trying to evolve it. You're trying to get better at that thing. So look at that as a motherfucker. They used to rap like fucking Lil Pump or some shit like that, and then over time they're starting to get better at rapping when it comes to their lyrics and their content and their subject matter and they multi entendres and metaphors and stuff like that. And then eventually you get to a point you start rapping like Lil Wayne like 2 years later and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. It's the same analogy that I'm trying to say, right? It's about the character that you're trying to create for yourself. And if you're not the one creating the character and you're trying to cosplay into someone else's worldview instead of having your own worldview first of how you look at it, so you can go along with the wave, because you look at that thing as staying relevant, or you look at that thing as, oh, I gotta do this to make the money, I gotta make the bank and shit like that, instead of trying to create a new way of how to look at it just in general, and a new way to production, and a new way of expanding the original starting point of what you made, so you can maintain the space that you is in, because no one's gonna be you have your own individual mind and stuff like that. No one can read your mind and shit like that, and that's how you became human and why you sent it in the first place, and shit like that. That's why you got your own mind in the first place. So in a nutshell, that's just you being yourself on a high scale and stuff like that. And I already broke that shit when it comes to high vibrational and doing things on a high scale, right? But everything is based upon a frequency, vibration, and energy and stuff like that. So it's the journey, not the destination. The minute you get lost into a destination slash promised land of what you expected it to be like and stuff like that, you're gonna end up getting too caught up into a pocket of time. So it's like idol worship. You just getting lost into the potentiality or the idea of getting to that goal without actually enjoying the experience of getting to that end goal and stuff like that. So and then by the time you get to that goal, you're gonna be unsatisfied because you're gonna be unfulfilled in some way, shape, and form. Because the thing you was fulfilling yourself into was a monetary gain. You was getting fulfilled by the flesh too much. You getting fulfilled by the body too much, and the external tools and technology that get made from the flesh, instead of making your spirit bigger, the space that you in bigger, your creativities and talents and skill set, and your productivity bigger and stuff like that, right? And turning that into a character or a mentality or an incarnation in some way, shape, and form, and get into the metaphysics and the mystery behind the history. What's the story that you want to tell for yourself in your subjective point of view, instead of getting lost into history, aka the objective, and the externalization, and the condensing, and the physicality, and the materialization of that thing. What's the thing you actually trying to manifest in general? I'm not even trying to say like something wrong with the flesh or the body or the material gain you can get out of it, make your money, but I'm saying that's that, like, for you to maintain, for you to be into that celebrity level, or you being into that character, or you being in that space, or you being into that productivity, and you to maintain that first, right, is you being in your spiritual natures and stuff like that, your natural organic spiritual natures, and that's based upon your genuality of you being yourself, and your spirit is no shape and form, right? So you have to really you have to look into that thing of what it will be like if you had no experience doing that thing. Like, you have to look at that thing like, oh yeah, I'm still a nobody. Not like a nobody, like you're nobody important or nothing like that. No, you're not getting lost into a specific shape and form. So from you not getting lost into a specific shape and form of how to look at it, right? You're gonna look at everything like, well, I'm in no body, I'm in no shape and form right now. So you could go to the fucking Met Gala or some shit, and you look at it like, well, I'm still a nobody. Not like a nobody, like I'm nobody important, but you're not gonna get all big head about it. So at that point, you're gonna be really experienced that shit. Even if you got $1 million, you're not. It's like even if you had it, you're gonna actually utilize it for something, because you just looking at it like, well, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna get lost into this certain status of how I want to be looked at and stuff like that. I want to be able to keep creating more and experiencing more and producing more of this thing. So the most natural way of how to do that is having my own subjective worldview and stuff like that, and creating your own way of how to look at it. And then from you being yourself and you having your subjective point of view, and not getting lost into the objective point of view of how you fit, of how the world feels like everyone should be doing it and stuff like that. You stick to your guns. You stick to your capabilities, you stick into your instincts, and you make it possible for yourself. And then that's you actually working with God, and God is just all possibilities and stuff like that, and you making it possible for yourself to be around certain spirits or spaces, or be at your natural state of being, instead of being to state of being that got crafted for you. So look at that as like a publicist or an agent, or you representing a company. So from you being a walking billboard, and you getting lost into the celebrity stardom, and you being a superstar, and you know what I'm saying, like different industry terms and stuff like that, and you being a cash cow or some shit like that for someone else's gain, someone else's world, from some shit you didn't create, right? And someone else's government or someone else's industry and shit like that, you're just gonna be end up being used as like a voodoo doll of whatever they want you to basically represent at the moment, because you feel like that's what you got to do to get praise. And that's, in my mind, I just look at that shit as like, validation issues and shit like that. So I'm just saying, like, this is the actual state of being of what that thing is, instead of getting lost into the physical result of the monetary gain out of it and stuff like that. That's why I even made those proclaims in the beginning of the video and stuff like that, because I'm trying to make you understand the natural essence and substance of what that is in the first place, so you can do that for yourself, so you can already feel that way. Even if you don't got $1 million, you can still be on your block, you can still be in your local area and stuff like that. You can still be in your hood and niggas look at you like you a celebrity. Motherfuckers look at you like you a star. And it's not because you went on TV. No, it's your capability of what you can do based upon your natural ability of you being able to be a walking star. And a walking star is the same way how y'all look at the sun and stuff like that. It's a celestial body, and it's a big ass ball of gas and light and stuff like that. So from you being into your light body, your mind, and you condensing that into a flesh, the fluid, your physical body in so in shape and form, that's you acting out a heavenly body attribute, right? From it being a heavenly body, that's you creating your own atmosphere. The atmosphere is just the sphere at most, the world at most, the you know what I'm saying? Like the space you in at most, and you had to create that, and that's what, based upon that organic, natural transition and process and stuff like that, right? As we see in the atmosphere, going through different seasonal transitions, so like spring, summer, fall, and winter and stuff like that, you be doing that. So the same way how things are natural, changing in life and stuff like that, the more you actually able to go through those different seasons and those changes, and you're able to create and transmute and mutate and transform your way of going about it and stuff like that, that's you being a walking star, a walking celestial body, a walking light body. You able to have a different spectrum of different worldviews and world reality and your own atmosphere of how you do it and stuff like that. So motherfuckers start going to you for that thing because they like how you do it, because you got your own world. You got your own realm of reality. You have your own productivity. You have your own creativity. You have your own way of looking at it, instead of getting lost into other people's viewpoints and other people's worldviews and other people's atmospheres and other people's intelligence and other people's lights and stuff like that. You got your own intelligence. You got your own light that you want to shine and you want to emit and you want to show and you want to be the representation of what the fuck that look like from your organic way, from you naturally being yourself, just on a high scale. And from you doing that on a high scale, and you able to stay on that, you able to, like I was saying earlier, right? From you using your light body, your mind, your mentality, you're able to be light as in weight, and you ain't taking that shit as a burden or heavy, or you ain't getting lost into that expectation of what motherfuckers want you to be. No, you know who you want to be, because you are that yourself as an individual. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sentient right now, and you wouldn't have your own mind. So you already went through these different transitions for you to be sentient as a human and stuff like that. And you a spirit and a body right now, being the physical fleshy fluid and stuff like that, and you're gonna go through that different thing again and stuff like that. So from you doing that in different bodies and different shapes and forms and stuff like that, from getting different experiences, you only want to try to expand your mind at that point, right? So from you expanding and creating and cultivating what you did for yourself, instead of getting lost into other people's cultures, and especially if they don't represent your people in no way, shape, or form, right? And people in your sentiment and your spiritual family and stuff like that, and your ancestors and shit like that, and your predecessors and the people who came before you in a real way, in an actual type of way and stuff like that, then it's like, yeah, at that point you're just gonna get lost into the okido. You're just gonna get lost into the bribe. You're just gonna get lost into the contract. You're just gonna get lost into the flesh. You're just gonna get lost into the physical representation of what that look like, instead of creating your own way of how it look like. So everyone want to have that sweet spot. Everyone want to make it a heaven in so and shape and form. But the more you actually, because a heaven is just a place of perfect happiness for the soul after death and stuff like that, right? Now, there's no such thing as like a perfect like there's no such thing as like a perfect omnipotent being and stuff like that, right? Or like some Elohim or some shit, at least in that type perspective, because the only way you could look at, to make that like really simple, right? The things that are things y'all consider like perfect and stuff like that is based upon imperfections. And the more you learn how to work on your imperfections, that's what makes you perfect. Because from you learning how to deal with your issues that you look like as a flaw, you turn that weakness into a strength. And that's what people be want to call perfect and stuff like that. So from you putting yourself into that state of being, you knowing how to transmute and deal with your different issues, and you ain't getting lost into a pocket of time of how that supposed to look like. You're able to widen your spectrum. You're able to widen the ideas you cultivate. And you're able to widen your mind. You're able to expand the space that you're in and condense it into a new one until it expands again in some shape or form. So from you going through those different experiences and shit like that, you're able to create and cultivate a new way of how to look at yourself. And then people look at you as like a walking representation of what that looked like. And then people look at you like, well, damn, like, it don't matter how much we be getting on this motherfucker and be bullying this motherfucker like Drake or somebody and stuff like that. We is not gonna stop them from doing what they want to do when it comes to how they want to experience and go about their life and shit like that. So it goes all to what I'm saying about creating your own character and being a celebrity for the most part. So it's about what's actually nourishment for your soul. Your soul is just your individual space, or your individual spiral for the most part that you want to expand into and condense into a new mind state, condense into a new vision, condense into a new thought form, condense into a new mind, condense into a new feeling and emotion. And that emotion is you moving. So from you moving, that's you being motivated. And it's gonna give you that adrenaline and blood flow to give that life, give that sentience so you can play that out and live that lifestyle until uh, you end up burning that out and you want to create a new one. And from you having more a broader awareness, the same way how humans have more of an awareness than animals and stuff like that, based upon our sentience and shit like that, we was doing that on a broader scale before they was doing that. So that's what we doing in general, and why we keep coming back as humans, but we're trying to expand to a greater shape and form, being beyond just human and stuff like that. And that's really what mankind trying to do, just in general, like I was saying earlier in the video, trying to be one of a kind of man, a quality of man, a quantity of man, and being a father of a multitude and able to do that into different multiple spaces and stuff like that. So making your own world and atmosphere in some way, shape, and form. And we all trying to make it into a heaven. It's just y'all be trying to make a hell out of a heaven and stuff like that. Y'all get lost into one shape or form what that is when it's all subjective. It's just we make the objective based upon all our different subjective point of views, so we can bring God on earth, aka all possibilities, and make it possible to make that potentiality of that actually playing out in existence in some way, shape, or form in our physical realm of reality, so it can be heaven on earth, literally. So even after death, based upon what actually nourish our souls, we actually have legs to stand on from what we stuck for and standing on business, standing on business after death. So based upon the afterlife and after death and shit like that, right? Even after we're dead and gone, we still have our spirit. We still in that space that we created for ourselves, and then our spirit, our space is no shape and form, and that thing is always going to be spiraling, so it can get more expanded, so it can have a broader awareness, so it can be even bigger. So even when it actually gets condensed into a physical shape and form, it gets materialized and condensed and stuff like that. Look at that as you have more talents and abilities and capabilities that you're able to do. A very intelligent human, a very imaginative, creative ass human, or some shit like that. So in general, that's just the state of being of creating a character and being a celebrity. You're able to create your own goal based upon your actions and how you react to it, and you putting yourself first based upon your personality and your personal viewpoint of how you want to go about it. And it's just your subjective point of view turn into an objective point of view, and we are able to do these things together to create and cultivate these things naturally based upon who's in your natural sentiment and stuff like that. And the more as humans and mankind trying to be one of a kind and have our own individual point of view, not getting lost into a narrative, not getting lost into a program, not getting lost into a government, or I'm not even trying to say you're not supposed to have no government or stuff like that. I'm just saying, just in general, like the governing mentality. Y'all trying to govern the mentality of how we supposed to look at it. That's what the fuck I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? You like at that point, you already got your own solar system, your own different chakras that are calcified and open and stuff like that, and everyone got their own light that everyone got their own light that they want to shine. It's just when y'all get blinded by the light, and then it's gonna turn to blind leading the blind. Is motherfuckers who make a program or a monopoly game that only they can win in, and you have to be a part of their industry or be a part of their monetary gain or be a part of their monolith or be a part of their lineage or be a part of their money bribing game or so much before, and go for that in order to feel like you somebody, when those things are something that already got created for the most part. So from that already being created, you have to create your own shape and form, your own viewpoint, your own worldview, your own way of how to go about that, and you start looking at it like, oh, I could do that same thing. It's just certain motherfuckers who like haters and stuff like that don't want to be part of my vision, don't want to make it so it's fair and relatable and in sync for everybody to be able to do that. For the most part, you just want to make a game only you can win in, so everyone can be under your ruling, your government I mean, not government, governing mentality of how to go about it. So be in your mind, and you just want to be like a deity or some shit that people want to end up worshiping and make a religion out of and stuff like that. When everyone can have their own piece of their way of going about it, and if people want to naturally follow that person, that chief, that representation, or that star, or that character, or that a person being that walking virtue and principle, or that walking angel, or that walking saint in the flesh, right? If people want to organically naturally follow that, just let them and stuff like that. So it don't get lost into, oh, you have to be mainstream and you ain't shit if you underground and stuff like that. No, it's just a stream of consciousness, and y'all just want to be the mainstream of consciousness of what the fuck that look like, instead of making motherfuckers be in their own position to where they can have their own labels, or have their own stream of consciousness, have their own industries, have their own cultivated thing where they can just do that with those and those people. And if you want to be a part of that culture, just go over there, instead of making everything a big ass monoculture monolith and stuff like that. No, everyone can have their subjective point of view and niches and stuff like that. We're just going to create and cultivate different colonies and different sections for people who like doing that specific genre, that specific culture, that specific way of living and stuff like that, instead of goddamn making it a thing to where it's like, oh, it only matters if you sell 1 million records and you do it in this way, and you got to be on this radio show, and you have to have this amount of money, and you have to know this amount of people, and be around this manager, and be in this industry and shit like that, and move like Jimmy Iovine, like yeah.